What's up, Triple Cross Podcast? We are back at it again with the first baseball show of the year. We're going to be discussing the World Series from last year, off-season moves, and also the new rules for the new season.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
What's up, guys? I'm Matt. I'm here with Casey and John, and we are discussing baseball 2023. Here we go. I appreciate you guys having me on the show. First time host, long time listener. We are going to be discussing a lot of things, all baseball related, obviously. Talking about the World Series last year. Just want to kind of start off for where we left off and going into the season. So the first thing that comes to my mind from last year's World Series is Dusty Baker with the W. He's the oldest manager to ever win a World Series for the first time. I think 73 years old. He's been coaching for forever and never won a World Series till now. And I have two sides of this. One, I'm excited for him, but also two, I kind of hate the Astros. So it was like it was a weird situation for me because they cheated, a couple years ago. Yeah. So it was like, but I'm glad that he won. I don't know if you guys are Dusty fans or not, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is actually a really exciting opportunity to talk about baseball with you because you're so much more up to date on the current state of the game. When you say Dusty Baker, the era of baseball that I'm most familiar with, I'm like, yeah, Dusty Baker. I love that guy. And he actually, I think it's really interesting you bring up that he'd never won a World Series before because it is super familiar to me just coming fresh off the Super Bowl with Andy Reid. That was kind of his thing for the longest time, I think for a couple of decades in the league, where he's a super great coach, highly esteemed, but he just can't get over the top. Finally goes to the right place with the Chiefs, wins the Super Bowl, wins another one. They got a dynasty going on now. Maybe we got that brewing in Houston too. You never even know.
Yeah, you never know.
I mean, I think that to me, I get not liking the Astros. I mean, there's certainly in every league, I think there's villain teams. You know what I mean? And the Astros, it's just so easy to be the villain team when it's not like, it's not like, hey, Barry Bonds was taking steroids, or it's not like one person. It was like your whole team was cheating, right?
Yeah.
And we're not talking they figured out the signals type of cheating. That's normal baseball stuff. That's just part of
that's part of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were using technology to cheat, right? And I mean, it started out a little bit more obviously primitive than that with the drum banging or whatever, but the bucket banging. But then they start actually using something in their stadium to do it as well. I can't remember the details, but there's a light or something that would flash. Yeah. So I get it. I kind of dig the redemption story a little bit because I think after the cheating stuff came out, it was everybody was they wouldn't have won. I mean, what's your feeling on that? Would they have won the World Series if they weren't cheating? Because if you looked at their home record and away record, it was this is astronomical. This is so much worse than any other team in the league. And it's because they're cheating at home. And so they obviously wouldn't have won the World Series had they not done that. So to me, I kind of dig, and maybe it's because I'm a little more removed from baseball than I used to be. But to me, I kind of dig the redemption story of coming back and being able to win it within a few years, with some of the same personnel,
Yeah. I think they had 5 guys on the same team.
Yeah, was Dusty Baker with them then? Was their manager with them?
Oh, okay, no, Dusty was not. But that was I think he was such a key element and bringing hey, he's a baseball legend. We need to start over and start with a clean slate to really build our team back up in the baseball world. I mean, there was such a black mark with the Astros. It is an easy team to hate, though. It isn't easy. You go to any stadium and it's just so easy still. But I
Yeah.
do like the redemption. They did earn it this year. And as far as we know, they didn't cheat. You know,
Is your
as
take
far as
on
we
it?
know.
Yeah.
Is your take on it? They absolutely wouldn't have won.
Oh, well,
They not
they
been
cheated they cheated for two years, 2 different
Yeah.
years.
No,
So
I
I
think
don't know. It would have been I don't know if they wouldn't have won, but definitely would have been a closer battle for sure. I mean, they wouldn't have had such a huge advantage, obviously.
Sounds like
So
you're a little bit more willing to be on narrative street, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no way they ever win that. I mean, there's a reason that they got taken away from them. I don't think there was any way that they would have won that World Series without the advantages they gained through their methods, their tactical alternative methods that they used. I mean, there's a lot of data. I don't have it in front of me, but there's a lot of data showing like the difference between home and away for them. With like on base percentage, particularly some metrics like that, just like through the roof. And sure, teams can be better at home, but it was clearly unnatural compared to like how they would play on the road. But so we kind of talked about how John and I are more familiar with an older era. Matt, I have a question for you. This like dark spot that you talk about with the Astros cheating. Do you, first of all, I guess I should ask, do you believe that there was like, are John and I the exception to the rule, or was there ever a lull in baseball? It seems like baseball might have been more popular kind of in the 90s, early 2000s. Is that fair to say?
well, no, there was a lull. I mean, so what happened is in '94 there was a strike, and so fans were very upset, and it was just not a good time. And what happened was '98 was McGuire Sosa, the home run race, and that's what brought people back. Because they had, I mean, you can look at it two ways, like, oh yeah, they took steroids and stuff, but also like they brought people back to the stands, and like I don't know where baseball would have been without Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, like that whole run where it was like exciting to go to the baseball game again, because it was not in good shape.
Even like A-Rod, Clemens, they kind of picked I'm just talking about guys who actually got busted,
Yeah.
Like those guys that picked up the torch right from there. I'm talking like post those guys, though, if there was like a little lull.
Do you think there's been a lull in the 2005 to 2015 era, right?
What I was going to ask you was like, it almost seems to me like the Astros cheating was like the crescendo of like a little lull in baseball, and then took a couple seasons to ramp back up, but it feels like baseball is really on the rise again lately. Like it's really taken off with some rule changes and things like that.
Yeah.
Casey is basing this all on how much he pays attention to baseball. But it's a valid question, because it does seem to be easier to pay attention to it as a casual fan. And I would actually not call you and I casual fans of baseball in the 2000s, right? Like, or in the late 90s and early 2000s, I would say we were well beyond casual fans. Like, we were big fans of baseball.
Agreed. Matt, what's your take on that?
I mean, I don't know. The lull, I don't know. I can't speak to that, to be honest, because that was when I was following baseball the least. So maybe there was a little lull.
Maybe there was a lull.
Maybe you're right on point. But I mean, the only thing I can think of is like steroids were like not being used, right? Like, so there were less home runs, so there is like less, flair. And like, that's one thing I do want to talk about later on the show is like the new rule changes, how that's going to affect a lot of different things within the game. But we'll dive into
about
that
to ask the same thing I'm about to ask is then the natural next question is, what is your take on steroid use in this sport? Because
here's the thing.
There is the take out there that people say, like, just let them do it.
Well, here's the thing. So baseball has been a sport of notorious like cheaters, right? 1909, the Black Sox, they cheated in the World Series.
I think it's a sport that lends itself to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like you're already you're supposed to try and figure out what the other team's trying to do. You're supposed to try and figure out the next pitch. You're supposed to try and steal the signs, right? So it kind of lends itself to it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So yeah, your take on steroids?
No, I mean, like, you're right. Like, it is a sport of like, there always has and always will be people trying to gain the edge in whichever fashion that is, whether that's putting tacky stuff on the ball, steroids, like stealing signs.
We're rebooting the same, because say what you will, if there's any amount of like viewer audience that falls off after the steroid years, I think it was a little bit on the MLB themselves because they kind of did a little like witch hunt within their own thing, and they're kind of condemning their biggest stars and stuff. I think we're seeing that again with some sticky stuff. Like it's the next version of it. Can they nail it this time and not do that? Because like I don't know, I don't know all the big guys in baseball right now, but I know Trevor Bauer would have something to say about like the sticky stuff. He was the guy who was the most outspoken ever about it, trying to get the league to do something. And then they go, well, he goes, they aren't going to do anything about it, so I guess we can just use it. And then they go, well, you're clearly just using it. He goes, yeah, well, you're fine with it.
But
so
see, if you talk, I mean, the thing about sticky stuff is like if you talk to pitchers too, like actually, if you talk to pitchers and hitters, a lot of times they're like, actually, like it's okay because I don't want the ball to slip out of the pitcher's hands.
They want
and
control, but they
like
don't want to see the unreasonable spin rate, though.
Well, yeah, but it's also like hitters are like some hitters are like actually like I don't want to be hitting the head. Like I want pitchers to have more control over the ball. But then some hitters are like, yeah, you know, it can do some like wild movement stuff. So you're getting like two different sides of the story. Yeah.
I mean, we kind of went on a tangent from
we did
last year.
But let's bring it back to the World Series. So the one thing I do want to call out from last year's World Series, there was only the second no-hitter in the World Series ever, and it was a combined no-hitter. So like the last one was 1956, Don Larson versus the Dodgers. So this was the first year.
That was when they didn't bring in relief pitchers.
Yeah, there were no. Yeah, it was like
if you got relieved, you're doing bad.
Yeah. But I was shocked. I was like, wow, that's the first no hitter like in 70 years.
Do you know if statistically, I'm just going to throw random questions at you that I'm guessing you don't have the information off the top of your head, but just for fun, since
maybe
we're doing a podcast and it's, not high stakes at all. Do you know if no hitters have statistically become less common recently? No, they have not, Casey. Have they statistically become more common?
No hitters have. Okay. Pretty sure.
Specifically, I would imagine most of them are.
Depends what time window you're talking about.
Right, I would imagine most of them are combined now.
I would counter Casey. I would say that they're less common now.
Less common for a single pitcher, but
for
more
sure.
common.
It depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about the last 25 years compared to the 25 years before that, that's one thing. But if you're talking like last 50 years compared to the 50 before that, like there were a lot of complete games like 100 years ago, but they very rarely like went hitless. So it depends what you mean, like what kind of timeline you're talking about. I have something that I think you guys would be interested in.
I think I was talking about the last 15 to 20 years. Have they become less common?
That actually would be interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting to know. The pitching is more efficient than ever, I think. But yeah, they might get pulled more often.
That's the thing that's advancing more so than anything. Because I remember when we were growing up, and this is probably the case when you were growing up too, Matt, if you knew a kid who threw like 80, like he was a stud. Like he was really good. If he threw 80 and had some off-speed stuff and had pretty good control, he was a great high school player, Now, dude, I feel like in every state, like the state I live in is a small state. Every state there's like more than one high schooler who can throw 90 or more, and they have off-speed stuff and they have good control. I feel like pitching, because it's so mechanical and so technology, like the advances in technology have allowed pitching to progress so much more than every other aspect of the game. And that's why I'm asking that, because I see pitching as getting harder and harder to hit at a much higher rate than I see hitters getting better, because there's just not as much technological advance in that category.
Well, hitting is a reactive science. It has to react to whatever the pitching science changes to. But I would actually say that even defensively, you don't see it across the board anymore, because so many teams go, we don't care about defense. We just want hitters and stuff, like the money ball kind of tactics. But the best defenders, the guys who make their money playing defense now, I think you could say they're probably the most talented defenders of all time. I mean, they have unreal speed with unreal skills. I'm thinking like a Kiermaier in the outfield or something like that. One of those defensive studs.
I'm trying to think of them, and the most of the ones that I can think of, like Tatis or whatever, are like they're very good offensively too. You know.
Yeah,
Most of them are, but there are a
but
few.
John, you are right about the pitchers, like the velocity. Like they are.
Yeah.
I mean, in the bigs, like hitting 100 now is like not that crazy.
Pretty normal.
95 is a
And-
dime a dozen. Like that's
Yeah.
what.
If you can't throw 95, you're not there.
Yeah.
Eh,
And
there's some
my
exceptions.
buddy
I
who's
mean,
a scout,
there's some weird pitchers, like Jamie Moyer was like one of those outliers. There's always going to be those
Right.
outliers, but
right. Yeah, but my
Yeah.
buddy's who's a scout, I actually asked him, I was like, how are people throwing like over 100 now? He was like, the technology, like the way they break down the mechanics now is
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
refined where they can
Yeah.
just like pinpoint errors and refine that. And then that's how they get up to,
Does
101,
that-
102.
I know we're going down
Yeah,
a rabbit hole, but does that take some of the romance out of it a little bit? Because like I look at a guy like Winsicombe's like delivery, and I was like, I know that's not like textbook at all, but it was like that, like way over the top, throwing his whole body into it, like kind of just hucking it and
Yeah,
still like
just chucking.
burning it in there. I'm
Yeah.
like, I love those ones more than anything. That's my favorite kind of
Yeah.
delivery.
I mean, yeah, I think those deliveries are going to be like kind of going out the door a little bit.
Relic of
It's
the
not,
past.
I
it's not
think
fine-tuned.
I think it gives a little more merit to me. I think it gives someone like Nolan Ryan, who's still through 107, right?
I
There's
think it
still
was
not a-
104 maybe.
Yeah, is
I
there
don't know.
many?
I don't know.
You know, like,
That's 107
but
sounds
way
so much
way
better.
way before anybody
Oh
ever.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like he just went up on the mound and threw the baseball. Nobody ever like really taught him much, probably until he got to the league, because he didn't. He went from high school into the minors, right? Like,
Yeah.
and even then, what did they teach him? It was like some old school pitching coach, like, I don't know, bend your back more or something like that, you know, like,
Yeah.
And also, what are you going to do with him? This guy's already throwing 100. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know how to throw faster. You got to throw strikes, man. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think that it kind of lends more merit, like not merit, but like makes it all the more impressive. People like that who were already doing it. Randy Johnson would be another one, you know, that were like already doing it before they had really. Because yeah, I have a cousin, man, who threw 92 in high school and he got no college offers.
Wow.
And yeah, he had a pitching coach from the time he was 12, and it was like video breakdowns and like just slow-mo, like the technology of like how like the video would like show the different angles of his body and stuff like that is insane, right? Comparatively.
Right. Wow. No offers. 92. Yeah.
Matt, I have the perfect.
I think he was specifically looking for a few different schools and didn't get them, so he was like, whatever. He could have played somewhere, I'm sure. But baseball has become less common at the college level as well.
Right.
Matt, did you? I have the perfect cherry to put on this so that we can move on to the next topic here. But did you shout out the original guy who threw the no-hitter in the World Series?
Yeah, Don Larson.
Yeah.
Did you know he retired? John, you probably didn't know this either. He retired to the city just adjacent to where John and I grew up, in Hayden, Idaho. And I actually got a signed ball from him. I think he threw. Was it just a no-no, or I thought he threw a perfect game?
I think it was a perfect game. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
did they win the World Series?
Did you meet him?
I didn't meet him, but my dad or my grandpa met him and got that, and then they gave it to me. I was like, wow, it's pretty cool. Still have it. That was that's probably like one of the things I've held on to the longest.
I didn't even know he was in Hayden. He wasn't involved with baseball. He wasn't involved with baseball at all after he retired then.
Bro, if you threw a perfect game, do you want to like teach little shit kids? No.
No. What was I gonna say? That so did they win? Did he win the World Series? Not him, but his team.
That's a great question.
So
because it's like you can't, dude. You can't not after that.
Yeah.
Matt, you have all the championship years for the Dodgers memorized, right?
Well, I do. I don't think the Yankees won. Yeah, the Yankees won. It was 55 that the Dodgers won. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
game
that would suck.
Perfect game be damned.
Throw a perfect game and lose the World Series.
Oh, that sucks. That's kind of like becoming the all-time leading scorer in the NBA and then losing that game when you become the all-time leading scorer. I couldn't imagine that happening.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about off-season moves. And let me just get this here. So I'll be honest, like I wasn't as active this offseason and like paying attention, but when I heard something drop, I was like, okay. And the biggest one was Aaron Judge, right? That was like, where is Aaron
Huge.
Judge going? Like, is he staying with the Yankees? Is he going somewhere else? And obviously he stayed with the Yankees, but that was a little bit of a drama. I heard that he went to, so he's from the Bay Area, and the Giants like have money to throw at him. And so I did hear that he did go meet with the Giants front office. They rolled out the red carpet, and I also heard that they offered him the same kind of deal, like identical. So I mean, the question is like, you know, do you want to go back to your home team, or I mean, the Yankees are like, it's the Yankees, right? Like,
the Yankees kind of are his home team too. Like,
what's that?
The Yankees are really his home team too, though. Like, you know what I mean?
But he didn't. Yeah, but he didn't like. I mean, he grew up like not.
Yeah, I get
stuff. Yeah. But it's like, where do you? You know, that's a tough. Like, it could be a tough call.
Do you think?
I think it means a lot that the Yankees offered him the captain spot. You know, be the captain of the Yankees is that's something that the Giants can't offer. You know?
It's right. Nobody can offer being a captain of the New York Yankees other than the New York Yankees.
Right.
There's a point. So here's the thing. There's a point at which, and I don't mean to like call myself the ultimate expert on advancing athletes, but there was a time where I was a professional athlete at a much lower level than Aaron Judge. And there's a point in your athletic career where you essentially purposely stop becoming a fan. Does that make sense? So like, and not that you're not a fan, like you still love the game and you're still a student. I would still call yourself you still call yourself a student of the game. But you stop having favorite athletes. You stop having favorite teams, because the reality becomes very clear that like, I'm going to have to play against those guys. Like those guys who are my favorites, I'm going to have to face them. Those teams that, my favorite team, I might not play for them. And I might play for, if I've always been a Giants fan, like I might become a Dodger, right? Or if I've always been an Angels fan,
right,
I might become a Dodger. That's like a very real thing.
Right.
So there's a point in your career when you start to realize like where you're headed, where you stop sort of becoming a fan because you realize like, I can't be, and Aaron Judge, that happened a really long time ago. So yeah, I don't think that I'm overly surprised that he doesn't go to the hometown team. He was probably a fan of them as a kid, but there was some point in his life where he realized I can't be a fan of anybody anymore because I'm trying to be all of them. So, I get it. I get the move. Plus,
like,
if you want to win a title, just hang out on the Yankees for long enough.
Yeah. It's not a bad
great rule. It's not a bad rule in baseball. Like, hey, do you want to win? Just hang out on the Yankees for long enough and it'll happen.
It's been a hot minute since they've won, but it's not a bad, like if you were to like, where's the best chance for me to win a World Series? It's the Yankees.
Yeah. The Yankees, maybe the Sox, maybe the Dodgers, but probably the Yankees.
Yeah. But I mean, speaking of the Yankees, they also, they signed, they re-signed Anthony Rizzo, first baseman, and pitcher Carlos Rendon to 6 years. So they made some like other, big moves too this offseason. So they didn't.
People were wondering if they could even afford Judge, and they go out and they make a few major signings. It's just
they're the Yankees. They're like, you're wondering if we can afford it? That's our thing.
They had the world convinced, though. I mean, the main like baseball people I follow are typically like more New York based. They're like Yankees fans, and they were all convinced. They're like, it looks like he's going to the Giants. It sucks.
But here's the thing, like too, he had an opportunity or the Yankees had an opportunity to lock him up before the offseason, and they just didn't offer him enough. So it's like, if you're the Yankees, I mean, he took a gamble on himself and he won, obviously, big time, right?
Right.
But also, if you're like, I want to be a Yankee, and this is where I think A-Rod talks about this. He's like, if you want to be a Yankee, like, you just you take like what they're like kind of offering you. You don't bet on yourself because you want to be on the organization.
Right.
So I mean, like, now if he didn't have such a monster year,
There's certain players I think that are above that. I mean, A-Rod it's interesting that comes from A-Rod. But
right,
like Derek Jeter could probably bet on himself. You know, Mariano Rivera could probably bet on himself. Aaron Judge is the biggest hitter he's a generational hitter, you know?
Yeah.
There's certain players.
It's interesting though, like,
but it's not the standard. I mean, Derek Jeter could have, but he never did, you know?
Right. But like, if you want to be, I mean, I think that to be a Yankee great is like something that you go down in history of like one of the best on the best teams, biggest franchise I think the Yankees are the biggest sports franchise in the world, or what most recognized in the world.
Just think about like the company that they like, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, like it just goes on and on.
Garrick,
I mean,
right.
We could name 20 guys who are just as famous as anybody who has ever played baseball who all played for the Yankees. I don't think you can say that about any other team.
But speaking of, well, not the Yankees, but we'll go to the Mets. Carlos Carrera. That was an interesting saga. I don't know. Did you guys follow that at all?
Yeah, give us the recap on it.
Okay, so basically, the Giants signed him to a 10-year deal. They did a medical exam. It was 10 years, like $330 million. And he had an injury in the minors in 2014 where he fractured his right fibula, and he went under arthroscopic surgery to repair it. And the doctor was like, they didn't give him the green light. So they're like, we're not going to do this deal. Like, this is too risky for us to guarantee, because it's all guaranteed money too.
Right.
So like you're guaranteeing 330, and like you have a player that like could be a problem. So the Giants, this is after the Judge thing doesn't happen with the Giants. Right. So then you have the Mets come in. Yeah. So the Giants won't do it. Then you have the Mets who so Steve Cohen owns the Mets. He bought out, a little backstory on the Mets. So the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, the owners of the Mets were involved with that. So they sold the team, like they had to sell the team. So they sold the team recently to Steve Cohen, right? So Steve Cohen, multi-billionaire, and he's just dropping buku bucks. He's like, I want him, sign him. And they do another medical exam. They go back to the same doctor.
With like he was gonna find something different.
Yeah, like he's gonna.
Hey, check your work. Check your work. Dude, were you sure you got this right?
Right. And
you
so
cost this guy a huge deal. I'm sure now you're gonna come out and say, "Oh, man, it was actually a mistake."
So the Mets say, "Okay, we're not gonna sign him." And so then he goes back to the Twins, the team he was just on, and they give him not as rich of a deal. 6 years, $200 million. I mean, that's pretty still rich. Yeah.
Matt,
he hasn't re-injured.
I think he'll be all right.
But he hasn't re-injured that like problem again. But it's still, a risk for sure.
Matt, who's more bitter than Giants fans this offseason? I mean, they stayed in headlines all offseason with like, the biggest names in baseball, and they came away. Did they sign anybody of like major note? Nobody in that category.
No. There's no one that's like major signing. No.
Nobody likes to tease San Francisco. Giants, come on.
I mean, the Giants they're competing against the Dodgers, the Padres, and the.
No, they're not. Not anymore.
Well, I mean, they're competing in regards to like trying to sign players in the West.
Huge, man. I stand by what I say.
So that was a saga. I mean, here's the thing about baseball, like it's all guaranteed money, right? It's the only sport where it's all guaranteed. So like the NFL with NFL,
I think the NBA has all guaranteed money, doesn't it now, John?
Yeah, there's some guarantee. It's not. They're not all 100% guaranteed.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of contracts are heavier guaranteed, and it's, I guess, not unheard of in the NFL now, right? It's
Oh, I
not
mean,
common, but it's
NFL's
not
the worst.
unheard of.
It's
Right.
50%
Yeah.
of the money maybe is guaranteed across the league. I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that.
But
My
that's
question
the
to you
big thing.
guys.
That's the big reason Lamar Jackson couldn't reach a deal because he wanted a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
My
Sorry, go ahead,
question to
Matt.
you guys is like, do you, since he hasn't, well, there's two parts. One, since he hasn't re-injured that leg in like 10 years, do you take that risk on somebody that's like, he's not amazing, he's a solid player. Like, I mean, even transfer it to another sport like basketball or football. Like, do you
Right.
take a risk on someone that's like had an injury in the past but hasn't re-injured it, but is like a really, solid player? What are your thoughts on that?
It depends for which team. I think it depends what the situation of my team is and what I need. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's like, hey, a high risk, high reward move is worth it. And if we make no move, then the alternative or the known outcome is kind of like or the known outcome isn't that great. You know what I mean? So making a move that is high risk, high reward might be worth it. So if I'm thinking about it, like if you're the Giants, probably not, right? If you're the Mets, I don't know. I don't really know the Mets situation as well. But if you're the Twins, yeah, right? Because they're trying to kind of break through. So yeah, I don't know. That's and the Twins also had to take a lower risk move to resign him.
Right.
I don't like it.
You don't like
You don't
I don't
like
like
it?
it at all. No, I think again, I'm gonna stay on my same tune here and sing it all day long. I mean, if you're teasing at signing Judge and you're teasing at signing Carrera, like what are you
He actually
trying
signing.
to do? You're trying to land somebody who can make such a difference that it changes the makeup of your team. Whether it's a building block or you think just instantly they're going to like win you more games because of that signing, whatever the case may be. Like you're trying to make a big move, and that's respectable, and they're clearly trying to do that. But then the lack of big moves just shows that you had a strategy and you just didn't execute, which is something you don't want to see out of the players, the brass, the GM, the ownership. Like you don't want to see that at all. So it just kind of shows to me, like based off what they showed the baseball world, they fell short for their own expectations and their own game plan. So I don't like it.
Okay, yeah. So if we're specifically looking at the Giants, my take on the Giants is they probably should have had more in their pipeline, right? Like they're looking for big name. They were looking to sign at least one big name player in the offseason, like one big high impact player in the offseason. And the people in their pipeline were Judge and Correa. Judge, they always knew they were going to be competing with the Yankees, right? They should have known, like, hey, that's high. There's a chance we could do everything right and still not get him. Correa, they didn't know about the history, right? Like, or they didn't know about the examination. They're the first ones who found out about the new doctor's examination, correct? Yeah. So they didn't know that, but knowing that Judge was already a maybe, if you want to sign a big player in the offseason, like you probably need a deeper pipeline than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you pinning all your hopes on Correa, basically it's like you have 1.5 players in your pipeline. Like, and I don't know, maybe there wasn't other big signings really available in the offseason. But that's exactly right. They didn't execute it well, Casey, and it was because they just focused in on too few guys, I think.
Yeah, they bet on just basically two guys and one of them
Yeah.
coming through, and it just didn't happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, the other notable names that did kind of move, Trey Turner's a big one. He was on the Dodgers, and he went.
Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll relieve Matt a little bit here. We'll run through some of these a little bit quicker. So yeah, we're talking about the Yankees quite a bit. Rodon and
back.
Rizzo. Okay, Matt's here.
Trey Turner, Dodgers, solid, just all around player. Goes to the Phillies. 11 years. I mean, $300 million. Xander Bogaerts, shortstop from the Red Sox, goes to the Padres for $280 million. Those are like
what?
some. I think that 11 years.
Those are long.
11.
Is that normal?
It's becoming more normal.
Jeez.
Like these.
Yeah.
These
The-
10,
the-
11, 12-year contracts are like becoming more normal, which is
The
wild.
NBA is the one lagging behind on those kinds of things, I think, John, honestly, because the NFL is starting to do stuff like that with the superstars more too, you know?
Right. I mean, they're
Um,
doing like most of the superstars in the NBA don't want more than 5 years, honestly. 6
Right.
years. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Matt,
You're getting these like franchise, like they want to lock them up.
Basically, it's like we want you to play for us until you retire.
Matt,
Yeah.
I might be a Phillies fanboy this year. Like, I
Oh.
love Trey Turner. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think it's like a hot take, but I think he's like the best shortstop in the league, probably.
Yeah.
And shortstops are my favorite position, so naturally love that. And I mean, him and Harper, that's like I don't even know that whole roster up and down, but that's all I need to know. Hey, they're going to be good. They're going to
be
runs.
solid. But where are the Giants like in that battle, right? Like there's two other guys that are like solid. First of all, the Padres have 3 shortstops on their team. They have Fernando Tatis Jr., who didn't play last year because he got a 60-game suspension for steroids. And then he got in like a car accident or a motorcycle accident, something like that. Then they have the guy who replaced him. I think his name is Hu, like H-U. I'm maybe pronouncing it wrong. And now they have Xander Bogart. So they have 3 shortstops. And the Giants don't go out and get either Trey Turner or one of these guys. So to John, your point, like where are they?
Yeah, what are they doing? And why weren't they even in the discussion for Trey Turner? Right. Yeah, what's Philly going to do? Are they going to try and move one of those shortstops to second?
The Padres. Yeah.
Sorry,
so they're going to put someone at second.
Yeah.
And then and they have Manny Machado.
I bet
third.
Tatis goes to second. Yeah.
He could. Well, I then they have Manny Machado at third.
Right.
So
they can't move him to third. So whoever can play second base better is going to go to second base, probably.
Right. They may actually move. I could see a scenario where they move Manny Machado to first base.
I was just going to throw that out there. That seems like a pretty good fit.
Like
and
the
then
Padres
you
are.
side of the infield.
My God.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so those are like some other big names. Also, one that I haven't done much research on is this guy named Kodai Senga from Japan. He signed 5 years for $75 million on the Mets. And like supposedly he is just like, I mean, they have a nickname for him. I want to look him up real quick. His nickname is he's one of the top pitchers in the Japan.
30 years old.
Baseball.
He signed to 5 years at 30 years old.
Yeah.
That's normal.
I mean, now.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in Japan, they could have a whole career there before coming over, you know? That's kind of not that strange of a career trajectory. From
they
like Ichiro had like a whole career in Japan before he came over. And then he had a whole other career here. But
he has this ghost fork grip. I'm gonna show you what this looks like so we can
pull it
see.
Another big fork baller from Japan, huh?
Let me do this.
That reminds me of the closer the Mariners had back in the day. Sasaki?
Yeah, Kazuhiro Sasaki.
Yeah,
you guys see this?
That was a nasty fork ball. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. Give me. So it's just like a flat. Oh.
That tunneling is just.
Yeah, good luck hitting
perfect.
that.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. So it's kind of a
like
split. So it's kind of a split finger grip. Yeah. But look at the bottom fall off that thing.
Yeah.
Good night. The floor came off that ball. How fast does he throw that? Do you know?
So it's 98-mile-an-hour fastball and 83-mile-an-hour ghost fork.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So it's off.
So
speed.
he's on
so
the
off
he's on the
speed
Mets. Yeah. I mean, that's just. These guys that are coming from the international
people are gonna have
market,
to move way up in the box on him, and at 98 on the fastball, like he's got some tools. That is he going to be a reliever? You think?
I think he's gonna start. He's a starter.
Oh, he's gonna be in starting rotation. Who else is in their starting rotation?
So we got him. So the Mets signed Justin Verlander.
Oh,
so they have Verlander and Max Scherzer too.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also signed Edwin. Well, Edwin Diaz.
great
Edwin
starting
Diaz is a
rotation.
relief pitcher. Like
Yeah.
they just re-signed him. And Brandon Nimmo, outfielder, 8 years, $162 million.
They've got
Yeah,
a
the Mets are
great starting rotation. I mean, we don't know how this guy will do, obviously, but
Right.
they could have like a nasty starting rotation.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
but
good.
they lost Jacob deGrom. So he went to the Rangers for 5 years, $185 million. I mean, these contracts are just like, they're just going wild. I mean, it's
Right.
like, it's something
So
that
you're-
you don't, why, let me ask you guys, because I know you're more baseball or basketball, football heavy. Like, there's caps on football and basketball, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So baseball there's no cap.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I mean, like, what are your thoughts on, like, how does it change the dynamic when there's a cap versus no cap?
So if basketball was purely uncapped, it would become very not fun to watch. It's already pretty dominated by big markets. Even with like the soft cap, hard cap situation, because the big markets are usually more likely to pay the salary tax. If it was completely uncapped, it would just be all LA and Boston all the time. Because there's only 5 players out there. So in baseball, I actually don't mind uncapped in baseball because no one player can make such a big impact. So it's like, really, like, if you want to be the Yankees and buy championships, it's like, you better have some rich blood. You know what I mean? Like, and even then, baseball is such a game of like anything can happen, and like such a game of random happenstance that even when you can buy championships, you can be the Yankees and not, win in years. So I personally don't mind it uncapped.
Okay.
And
Casey,
coming from the
Casey,
football,
there's pure hard caps in football. That's it.
okay, so coming from the football mindset, it's actually a little different. There actually is football. The cap means the most for sure, but there are loopholes around it still for the big markets.
Yeah, signing bonuses specifically.
Yeah, the main thing is actually it's cash over cap, and they have prorated signing bonuses, and they put dead years at the end of a contract, so you can give a huge amount of a signing bonus, but prorated over the next decade if you want to, for a guy you're only going to keep for the next 2 or 3 years. So there are loopholes around it, but I would say the biggest thing that impacts are the narratives in the national media. So football can get away with all of the narratives that the best teams are just the best teams, and that's just how it is.
Right.
Not like the Yankees or the Dodgers, who spend up a ton, or any of those big market teams in basketball, where everybody kind of knows they should be winning more because they're spending more. They get to have things like Kansas City. That's just the best team in football. You don't say because
Cincinnati.
they're spending the most, even though they might be spending some top dollar. It just becomes not a part of like the ecosystem of football, which, to their credit, that they did that really well, I think.
So you think football is
I
the
think
most
it's cool
fair.
that small markets like Cincinnati can be contenders. You know what I mean?
See,
it's
that's
tough.
the thing about
And I'm a small
baseball.
market fan in basketball. Like, for the Utah Jazz to ever win, like, the freaking stars have to align. You know what I mean? We're never going to get a big free agent. We're never, like, that stuff just doesn't happen in small markets in basketball. I don't know. So what's your take on baseball? So that's where I'm against it, is like, is that the same? Does the same kind of thing happen in baseball, where it's like, yeah, look, if you're like a Twins, I'm a Mariners fan and a Twins fan, so zero championships. Is a big part of that because those are both smaller markets, and it's just harder?
I mean, it's like what you said. Like, the big markets are just spending the dollars, right? The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, like the Oakland A's are still playing Moneyball.
I'm generally okay with capitalism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. What like I like about the football is like it's an even playing field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost like having a handicap versus not having a handicap.
I bet it makes for more localized fandom. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people in Utah are just Lakers fans because they're like, why am I going to go through that pain of being a Jazz fan? A lot of people in Minnesota are just going to be Yankees fans or Celtics fan or Sox fans or something like that, right? Because why go through the pain? So I bet in football, maybe it does make for more localized fandom. In football, I mean, maybe we take a signal from it because it is the biggest of the big 3 sports.
Right. And Matt, you make a great point. You say it's like an equal to even playing field. It's not. That's
Right.
that's the trick, is that it's the illusion of an even playing field,
Right.
because
Without
it doesn't
being.
behoove anybody who makes money off the NFL, whether it's the owners or anybody in the league, it doesn't behoove them to have a salary cap. They want to drive up those bids on the best players, get the best talent,
Right.
and the most money will go to the biggest markets. And with profit sharing, probably going to be best for all the teams that can stay viable anyway.
But explain it. If there is a cap, then they can't spend over a certain amount.
There is, but there are loopholes around it. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
that I do believe football has the best system, because they give off the appearance of an even playing field, to where
Right.
most fans think it is, but it actually isn't, and they still get to spend more money and in turn make more money. I do believe that you spend more money to make more money on these things.
The way that it plays out in football, though, too, is that it's not always major markets that are dominating the game. So it does play out in a sense where it's like, yeah, they can put off the illusion, and the illusion's believable because Cincinnati can be good, right? Or Green Bay can be good, or, whatever. These smaller markets can be really good. So, yeah, I don't know. It plays out that way. So whatever the system is, while it does kind of have that capitalistic element, it has the effect that people are looking for from salary caps. Whereas the NBA, if you just put out the illusion of salary caps, but there were loopholes, then the same thing would happen.
But we see that
by major markets.
We see what you're saying in baseball too, though. One good signing that turns a team around, that changes the dynamic of the whole league, and nothing is going to be a bigger draw to free agents and to equal players. Let's say contracts are the same. Nothing's going to be a bigger draw than going to a team that's winning and could potentially win a ring. So that's something that goes across all sports. You win a ring if you win the championship, and all the players want those. And so you've seen it before. The Twins have been good. That's not a huge market. You've seen like name it.
The Twins have been solid.
The Twins
though.
are good. They've never won a championship though, and they've
won
even very few. They've even won very few pennants.
I thought 1965 they won.
They've had runs, though. What I mean is you can become a big draw.
Oh yeah, the Mariners have runs. A lot of small market teams can have runs. That can happen in every sport.
Well, the Bengals haven't gone over the top of late either, even though they're a good team, but they get a lot of, they're in the mix, and that's all you want to be.
But it seems to shift more in football, and maybe that's just a strange perception I have, but like the Packers, that are one of the smallest markets in the league, really have been good for a really long time, right? Because I
just want to correct the Twins have won twice in Spain and Minnesota, 1987 and 1991.
Well, I was wrong. They've had good
Kirby Puckett. Do you remember Kirby Puckett?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Not really. I was like one. So, but yeah, I am familiar.
Okay. I would actually say that the reverse is the most true in the NBA, which is probably why you have that view, more or less, John, because you follow that league the closest. Like, there it feels like the best teams are there's less of a chance of a team making it all the way through all those series at the end and ultimately winning if you're not one of the top three, at least,
Right. Yeah, that's true. Football does have a little bit of more of an any given Sunday effect. Yep. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm generally in favor of capitalism as a principle. But I do like, I don't know, I guess as a small market fan, I would love to actually have a chance once in a while. But yeah, I as a principle, to be intellectually consistent as a principle, I'm okay with uncapped, especially in baseball.
Right. Yeah.
If we were to have the conversation, if they were proposing it for basketball, I might be like, I don't know how I feel about this, but
what's interesting though, like even if you take the Yankees, for example, even if they're not, there was a time when the Yankees were like not that great. Like they didn't have like big stars, and like they went through their phase. I think it was like the 80s, like before like the Jeter, Rivera, you're still going to draw people just because you are the Yankees,
right.
Just because
some people would say they're in that phase now. They haven't had real success lately.
Yeah, since 2009. 2009
that's
was the last one.
It's a big gap now. We're talking for a team that pays as much as they do and usually is a perennial favorite to win it. It's a long time, but I think a drought, like we're saying, like now or in the 80s for the Yankees, is still like most teams dream to have those kinds of like eras.
They only have 27 world championships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
All right. Well, let's move on from let's go to our next new rules segment. We have new rules in baseball this year as we're evolving in this new era of baseball. So there's a pitch clock now. So pitchers will have 15 seconds to make each pitch when the bases are empty, and 20 seconds when there's a runner on base. And there's a 30-second timer between the batters. And so I was reading a little bit about this. They tried this out in the minors, and they said it like saved 20 minutes off the game, about something like that, which is like, that's pretty substantial.
So when does the pitch clock start? When the batter steps into the box?
So I think it starts like, pitcher pitches the ball, and then from when the ball reaches the pitcher again.
So it's also a clock that applies to the batter. So the clock applies to both the pitcher and the hitter. I like it then.
So I wonder like if there could be a stall between like the catcher hold the ball a little bit longer, like if he wanted to give his pitcher a little bit more time or something like that.
Strategists will say that takes away an element of the game. I'm sure. Like people,
deep
baseball fans. Go ahead.
This is without a doubt, in my opinion, going to fall under like the rule will be rewritten 4 or 5 times in the next 4 or 5 years, and the way that it's enforced across the league by the different umpires. I mean, no league is perfect in officiating, but MLB particularly has I'll say it's a problem with like age of umpires. Kind of have a lot of them are retiring now, but there's kind of that old guard. And the more technology you bake into these things, the more things they have to pay attention to. I just see them fumbling those opportunities more and more often.
Is there going to be like a buzzer that goes off after like 15 or 20 seconds?
I bet it's like a free throw clock. Clock. There is no actual clock, but there is technically a 10-second limit that they rarely.
No, there's going to be a clock.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But is it going to be like, okay, here's the thing with like football, there's a play clock, but it's not when the clock hits 0, there's a penalty. Right. There's a call made like half a second after, maybe a full second. This is where I'm talking about. It's not going to be enforced the exact same way. Even if the umpires are trying to, they're not going to be able to do it perfectly across the board. They're going to have to tighten up the rules and all little things. Yes, the clock starts then, it pauses if this happens, yada, yada. They're going to have to figure out all those things. And honestly, I think they'll never really have it nailed until it's just kind of like umps that came up and first learned it that way and never knew anything else probably will be able to handle it. And that's what we'll be like, oh, pitch clock's great.
What do your friends that are closer to playing the game say about this, Matt? Because we've been removed for a minute.
Yeah.
As fans, it's really easy to like this rule. I think as players, coaches, those would probably be the people who'd be against a rule like this, because it's like, I want to be able to slow down the pitcher.
I want to control the situation.
Right. Or as a pitcher, I want to be able to slow down the batter or, speed up. I guess I can't speed him up, but like,
no, you can speed him up. I mean, like if he's in the batter's box,
you can go right.
You can quick pitch him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that, which you still could do. Right. But like you want to be able to slow the situation down, especially if you feel that like the pitcher's in a rhythm. I played baseball at the high school level at the most. And I never thought like that. I thought like, I don't care. I'm going to hit him anyway. You know what I mean? So that was my mindset. But I could see some people who are a little bit more cognizant of that kind of stuff not liking it. I mean, do you have feedback from people who
it's only been in the minors, right? So like it hasn't no one like it's very lightly tested. I haven't talked to my friends that are still like closer to the game, but I have a feeling they're going to be against it for those reasons. Like there's less, it's like you're taking a little bit away of the like artistic, ability.
The optimization, you're taking an optimization point away. Yeah.
Right. Like a pitcher could stand on the mound and I mean, until the batter steps out, calls time, but he could stand on the mound and just like, batters would get pissed, right? Yep. They're just like, this guy's taking forever. Like, pitch me the damn ball. So you're taking away like an element of that.
I think it's the pitchers who are the most mad about it. I think that's for sure the case. I mean, even just forget about all the rhythm of the game stuff, because I could see it actually helping somebody's rhythm when it comes down to actual like mechanics and just throwing a little bit more on a clock. But I mean, some of the pitch counts on pitchers still these days can get pretty high for like a starting pitcher. And I got to imagine this affects like arm fatigue in a big way, because throwing 100 pitches over the course of, let's say, 2 hours is a lot different than throwing 100 pitches over the course of an hour and a half. I mean, that would be huge. Or you say it's only 20 minutes difference or whatever. But I mean, that's a monster difference. That makes that task much harder. And I think it probably will impact pitch counts for starters, particularly.
And also, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be interesting to see like the injury rate too of pitchers because if you're throwing more pitches in a shorter amount of time, and if coaches are paying attention to that and like all the, so I had surgery when I was 13 because I pitched too much, I threw the ball too much, and but back when I was playing, there wasn't this like science behind like you should only pitch so many times, and now it's such a science, like you can only throw this many days, this many pitches, stuff like that. So that will come into effect for sure.
Yeah, end of the day, I think the league has to do stuff to make the game more fan friendly. So
Yeah,
it's a good move, but I could see players and coaches not liking it. What else do we got?
All right, so we got defensive shifts. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but like there's like wild shifts been going on. Like
Yeah.
3 guys on one side, whatever. So now you have
they'll like abandon one side now.
Oh, for sure. Which I was like, okay, as a hitter, like just bunt the ball over to the other side. Like no one's there. Like, what are you like? Practice bunting for like 20 minutes a day,
Opposite
and you'll get a
direction.
hit every time. Yeah, like what are you doing? But anyways, that's going away. So like, you have to have 2 guys on each side of second base. So as a fan, I like it
makes more sense
because there's more action. But
this is going to do a lot.
Also, fans who are casual fans, those shifts looked weird to them.
Right. But like, why are they all the way in the one corner? Right.
What the heck?
But as a baseball purist, I'm not a fan. Like, it's a field, but I don't care where the players are. Like, do whatever they want.
So,
but it was crazy. The one thing, Casey, I want to point out, one thing is when I was watching games and like, I mean, it was unbelievable how on point the statistics were where the ball was going to be hit. I mean, it was like they like read their mind.
Yeah.
And so that's going to go away. What are your thoughts on that, Casey?
Yeah, this is going to be huge because I totally get what you're saying. A good contact hitter, a good bunter is just going to be able to find the grass, hit it where they ain't, right? That's as old as time, baseball. But these guys in the majors, that's not really, this might be a hot take, but that's not really the brand of baseball they learned growing up and they've been playing because they're like, well, hit it hard, wait for your pitch in particular and hit it too, like disciplined hitting, good hitting. And I think that's the main thing is the pitching. When a guy is likely to try to sit on a fastball because he's going to try to hit it out or he's going to try to get a big hit, of course, you know where to play him easier with your shift. You can put players wherever you want. Like, you know what he's kind of trying to do. You know what those look like. You've got data on that. You can go stand where the line he usually hits home runs on, and you can just disperse around there. But now with people spreading out, you're going to see that even more reinforced. Like, guys are going to be waiting on their pitches way, way, way more. I think you're going to see batter success go way up because they aren't going to have to be that complete type of hitter. Like I said, guys who are the age of playing right now, a lot of them weren't brought up like you got to be a complete hitter, but and then baseball kind of was incentivizing doing that. Now baseball is taking away that shift. It incentivizes hit it hard into a gap or just hit it hard, develop your hit and just hit. Wait for your pitch. Don't try to take a pitch you wouldn't normally swing at the other way to find the green spot. That's all gone. So you can wait for your pitch, be disciplined, hit it hard, get a good swing on the bat, and offensive numbers should go up because of that.
Oh, they will.
Yeah.
Things have gotten harder and harder for offense in baseball, and that makes for less fun baseball, really, to watch as a fan. So, yeah, I mean, every other league has made rules to make things easier and better for offense, and fandom and viewership has gone up. So it's probably a good move to, follow suit.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, too, we have bigger bases, too. So 15 inches to 18.
Like that.
So more stolen bases, closer. I like that.
More stolen bases,
I think
more guys trying to take an extra, stretch a double to a triple, stretch a,
Yeah. I like that because also stealing is just kind of like gone by the wayside. Like it's not like a thing anymore.
They're too good at throwing them out. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I like this. It's also a safety thing too. Just like too many like hands and feet on the actual base.
Yeah.
So it's like a safety. And then one which was interesting is only 2 pickoff throws. So you can only throw over to first base
I
twice.
like
And if you don't get him on the third try, it's a balk.
If I love that as a base runner, as a guy who is a base runner, I love that rule.
Yeah.
And there's
'cause
also
you
a
just
pitch
do-
count. Wait, how does that affect the pitch count? If you throw a pick off, you reset your pitch clock. Sorry.
Oh, your pitch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that rule.
I kind of
Right.
wish it was awarded an actual like stolen base for the runner.
Right.
Instead of just
Because
a
it's
balk.
like you push that guy to pick you off, to try and pick you off twice.
Yeah. Nobody's going to even flirt with a third time
Right.
trying to pick somebody off unless they're like, no, this mother effer is going to steal and I'm going to get him. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
so you
like,
deserve
unless
it
you're
at
way
that
off.
point.
Yep.
It also speeds the game up too.
Yes.
You can't just throw over like
You
So,
can't
I
just
think it's a
keep
win.
somebody honest
Yeah.
20 times in a row. Yeah.
Well, that's what I got for today, guys. Thanks for coming on. Discussed a lot. World Series recap, off-season moves, new rules. Thank you all for coming to our show and enjoying this first baseball episode. And we will be doing this weekly. And looking forward to being with you throughout the baseball season. See you next time on Triple Cross Podcast.